Hey Capstone Group, I wanted to make a video here to show you guys what I've been working on. After our meeting on Friday, I got to thinking about how much is left to do in this project, and I got a little stressed out, thinking about all the functionality and logic that we still need to put into place, and how we were going to do it. And so I was doing a little research and I came across something and thought of something that might help us out. So I just want to do a little demonstration of what I've come up with using session variables. So this is going to be all done on my server space. What I've done is just basically taken what is in our Capstone server and mirrored it on my side. Did a little cleanup, and it's ready to port back over whenever you guys are ready with the styling of the sheets. So this first page is the login page where we start. There's no functionality with it yet. You can see it's not secure or anything. So that's going to be on somebody else to figure that stuff out. What this is basically doing is the login button is going to extract the username as our first session variable. So we'll type in the user, whatever password, click on the login. You'll notice a few things that are different between my version and your version. Everything, all the information in the fields are the same. I've just styled it up a little differently. So you can see I did the side by side like Matt wants, and I think it looks really nice. And then you'll notice that there's a header as well. And in the header, this text that you see are the different session variables that we're going to be focusing on and keeping track of and using. So the first one is the user, and because I entered my name, when we do the database check, all valid users, it'll store right here as the user. The next one is the reservation ID. This one is going to be strictly used for editing the reservations. And then you'll notice this next set are all variables that get set into the reservation table. So I remember something that Matt said stuck with me, and how he wanted to create the reservation line in the table, and then after it's created, push the information in. And I liked the idea, I just didn't like the idea of creating the row and then filling it in. So what we're basically doing is doing the same thing with session variables. And each of these session variables is linked to a different part of the registration form. So what this allows us to do is persist this data throughout the different pages that we have, and it also lets us do logic checks and change the display of information. So for instance, because our customer ID is not set at the moment, we have the full form for our customer. We also have a link here for selecting the customer. I don't have any functionality, it's just a link right now. But what that'll do is go through and display all the customers. You'll select one, and when you select it, it will set the customer ID session variable. So what we can do is set up a new customer here. We'll call him Shauna Fonellis, teacher at uwm.edu. Give her a fake phone number. This include organization is for the customer table. This organization ID may be null, may not be, whether or not the customer wants to include an organization with their customer information. And so when we add customer, this is a confirmation page. We'll style it however we want. But then when we go back, you'll notice that customer 10 is now locked and loaded. Our customer 10 is now set as a session variable, and this form where the customer was is now removed, and we can style this to display the information for the customer. Now if we go back to our database and update it, we'll see that the new customer has been added to our database. So now we can remove the customer, and the form comes back, and now the customer ID is not set. So the same thing's going to work for the organization ID. Now again, this is going to be adding organizations, and then when it's set, that organization will be set to the reservation code. And then this right here will include it with the primary contact. Down here you have the catering option. Again, there's no logic linked to that right now. I'm still waiting on that information. And then finally down here you have the list of all the rooms. Now you'll notice that over here in the calendar display, it is displaying all of the reservations that are currently in our reservation table. I only have 3 so far added. So what we can do with the session variables is filter. So let's say we want to see all the Performing Arts Center reservations. We'll select the room. So now the room ID is set up here, and only reservations for that room are being displayed on the calendar. Once we remove the room, it'll update and all the reservations are back. So now what we can do, we'll just add a new customer. We'll call him Bowie Cat. With love at AOL.com. Phone number right there. We'll add the customer so that Bowie is now locked and loaded. What we can also do is just select a date. We'll say we want to make a reservation for the 30th. It'll pop up with just the reservation time. I'm still working on the logic because we have 7 a.m. as the earliest time you can start a booking, and then it sets it to midnight for the following day. So then what we do is we'll set the date. The dates are selected. So now you'll notice that the start time and end time are both set. The customer ID is set. We'll choose a room. Choose Exhibit Hall A. 3 is selected. Shouldn't conflict. And now that we have the customer, the room, the start, and the end, we now have a button for confirm reservation. This takes us to a page, and again, this needs to be styled. I just made these as fields with just the ID. So you have the room ID, I believe, the customer ID, the start time, the end time, and then a mandatory event name. And we'll call this Camp Party. We'll add the event, reservation successfully added, and then when we take it back, we'll see that Cat Party is there. So now what I'm planning on doing next is, then you also see that it resets everything. So everything is unset. We have all our forms back. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is editing. So when you click on an event, what should happen is it will find that event as an ID, set that reservation ID up here in the session variables, and then a pop-up will come up and it will populate all the information. And then from there, we'll be able to edit whatever we want and then update the database using that form functionality. So I thought these session variables were a good idea. Let me know what you guys think, both on the styling that I have so far, and then when you guys have your styles set up for your formatting, I can upload what I have onto our server and we can all start working from this project. So let me know what you guys think. Thoughts and comments, let me know.